We are joined today by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Nomusa Dube-Ncube, together with the APC for Public Works and Human Settlements, Honorable Dr. Mahlaba. And the purpose really for today's briefing is for the Premier to give an update on where we are as a province in terms of our flood recovery and rebuilding efforts, 7 months since the disasters took place in our province. Over to you, Honorable Premier.
Thank you. MEC Public Works and Human Settlement, Dr. Mahlaba, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Sanborn. Welcome, members of the media, to this briefing. Just to update you on the recovery process following the disaster of April and May. Maybe to start with, today being an important day for our country, where our President, His Excellency Ramaphosa, is celebrating his birthday. We wish on behalf of the people of KwaZulu-Natal to join millions of people, of our citizens, in wishing a hearty congratulations and a happy birthday to our President for reaching this milestone in his life. The purpose of today's briefing, as Kuku has indicated, is to give an update on the work following the disasters of April and May. Our presentation will cover various aspects of this recovery. We wish to report that huge progress has been made in restoring most of the services that were disrupted following these flood disasters. In the main, the water supply restoration have been restored since the flood disasters. Teams continue to work tirelessly to rebuild the water schemes that were completely washed away. The restoration of Utongati water treatment works, which is the one that was quite destroyed, completely destroyed actually, on the 27th of October 2022. Water was restored in this waterworks in Utongati and surroundings areas. You would know that when the restoration of new pipes is done, you need to allow time for the flow of water to be able to detect leaks, to be able to detect the water pressures, so that if there's a need for you to adjust the water flow and pressure to prevent the bursting of the pipes, you would need to do that. That process is usually given a month after the construction. So that is what is happening right now. That is why you might find that now and again there will be stoppages to allow for, again, that adjustment, but also where the water then is causing the burst of the pipes, adjustment to the pressure will then be done. The damage to Umlazi Canal pipeline, which affected water supply parts in the southern region, was restored, and the water in the southern parts of our eThekwini Metro has now been stabilized. The repair and the sanitation works is in progress. The work at this stage, particularly the one that was damaged in the main, which was totally destroyed, was Uhlanga sewage pump station, which is the station that was impacted, but also which impacts the beaches in the north. The work in that pipe in the northern waste water treatment pipe is continuing. And of course, the lack of completing that work is still affecting a number of beaches in the northern part of our metro. But the contractors are on site as we talk. Additional financial resources were approved in September, at the end of September, to allow then the work to also continue in the other areas of that waterworks. We are working really to ensure that as soon as possible, at least before we reach the peak of our festive season, that work is completed. So the target really is to ensure that before the Christmas begin, that northern part of the work is complete. Of course, there are beaches that are already open, which is Point Beach, Shaga, Eddington South, Wedge Beach, North Pier, the Bay of Plenty, Battery Beach, Country Club, Brighton Beach, Reunion, Pipeline, Toti Main, Werner Beach, Mgababa, they all open, those beaches. In addition, the swimming pools that are also open is the Durban North Swimming Pool is now ready to operate. The Tiger Rock, the Anstains, Westville, Kings Park, all of those swimming pools are functional and they are ready to be utilized. With regard to the human settlements part, we do wish to report that there is, of course, again, a visible movement there in the mass care center. As we talk this week, we were able to close another, well, it's supposed to be 3, but there's 2 now where it's been completely closed. The third one, people are in the process of moving, but they are moving. The emergency housing solution and the temporary residential units are being utilized as methods of decanting those mass care centers. The building material is also being given to people that prefer to be given the building material so as to then help with their own housing. We have also sought the agreement of the minister. The MEC met with the minister by the end of September to get to the final agreement and signing off for the rental assistance scheme, which is the scheme that we are using now to ensure that we move people as fast as possible. We have identified that the immediate emergency housing of displaced people, because we had 4,000 people that were displaced during the month of April and May, and a number of them will indicate did receive material as well as the material supply vouchers. Out of the numbers of the people that were displaced, only 1,810 areas were buildable for the temporary residential unit during the first phase of this work, and 1,592 have been completed so far, with 1,511 out of those having been occupied by people already. The other 81 completed will be occupied. Out of that 592 is in KwaZulu-Natal municipality. Right now, they are installing services to those sites. We really anticipate that before the end of this week, we would have shut down 4 mass care centers out of the 8 that is in KwaZulu-Natal. The remaining 4 in KwaZulu-Natal will be also closed by the end of the month, thus completing everything on the mass care centers in KwaDukuza. Of the original 135 mass care centers that were set up in the aftermath of the disasters, 71 have since been closed, and moves afoot again. The remaining 64 out of that 71 that we've done. We are daily closing these centers, as I indicated before, with this week our target having been to close at least 3, and we are moving to ensure that really on the daily basis, on the weekly basis, we are covering as much ground as we can. Furthermore, eThekwini having been the epicenter of the disasters, about 50 mass care centers remain. I think it's less than 50 actually. Probably it's about 40 something, 41 or something. There is progress, but also what we have done, all the mass care centers, including people that we have removed from the mass care center, has now has got a land parcel attached to it, which is where people are going to be, where we are building permanent housing for those people. The planning work for building permanent houses is already ongoing. We have asked the teams to fast track so that we're not only looking at the temporary work, but also we put the same effort in pushing the planning processes for the permanent housing, because the permanent houses, the processes for those are quite, steep. So the sooner we fast track all of the planning, not just those that we have started, the better we believe will be for us, at least the beginning of the year, to start with other sites that have already been finalized in planning. The province has suffered a major infrastructure damage as a result of these floods to the amount of 5.7 billion, and this translates to 1,372 damaged projects during the floods. And the experience that we've seen is that from the pipelines to the pipe culverts and bridges, all of that infrastructure needed to be rehabilitated, or others reconstructed, from the scratch. There has been short-term intervention, including the internal teams to attend to road closures, the tree clearances, tree blading. The Vugaibambe routine road maintenance has been used to ensure that we clear the debris that is still on the road. Also, the Operation Siyazenzela was also used for this work of clearing the debris in various areas. We are now sending the monitoring and evaluation team to follow up to ensure that where work has been done, it's been done to standard and up to the specifications. We have in the province at least 730 projects that were prioritized based on the proximity to schools, clinics, hospital, and several of these outsourced projects have been handed over to us, and others are undergoing evaluation to ensure that that work was up to specifications. The Department of Transport, working with SANRAL, managed to open most of the strategic routes, such as the R102, M4, using temporary measures. The agreements between the two entities includes the development of permanent solutions which is currently underway in some of these roads. Through an existing MOA between the Department of Transport and National Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the Welly Sizwe, which is the bridge building project, is also ongoing. Bailey Bridges program is also implemented in the 23 locations in the province to provide access to communities that were affected by the floods. On the schools, 356 schools that were damaged by the floods, 46 of them which were totally destroyed were completed. 143 are still under construction stage because of the amount of damage that was caused. I must say that one of the challenges that we've had to face is that because we've had to reprioritize monies from our own baseline, which is the departments, there was the time between the time of getting approvals from the National Treasury to reprioritize those funds. Secondly, is then between that time and the time when we get those approvals, we've had an unfortunate situation that in terms of the Disaster Act, we've got a limitation to which we can use the Disaster Act to do the rehabilitation. After 4 months, we cannot use the emergency to do the reconstruction. You've got to now follow the normal tender process, which is now something that is taking longer for us now to see work being fast-tracked in many areas. The Tsogosan pledged 3 million to assist us in the rebuilding of the schools. The Guga, as an implementing agent for this construction, finished their work on the 25th of November. The schools that were constructed under the Guga as an implementing agency was Ongane Combined in Zululand, Lukasa Secondary in Ilembe, Amandlake in Mgungundlovu, and Mgangeni Secondary School in Ugu. For the schools that were done under SASOL, the site was conducted and handed over in October, and this work is anticipated that it will be finished by December, at least at the time when the learners will be on school holidays. It will be easy for some of this work to be completed. This includes the schools in Ugu, which is Mlinganiswa Primary School in Ugu, Umnini Memorial in Umlazi, City Junior Primary in Umlazi, Stelimpilo in Umlazi, Ndabkhona Mgungundlovu, as well as Kwamlamuli Mgungundlovu. These schools are still under construction under the SASOL supported program. There are also health facilities that were affected. Prince Mshiyeni Memorial Hospital was one, Mahatma Gandhi, Utongati, Inanda, Wentworth, Osindisweni. During the times when the water pipes were damaged, these hospitals were serviced by water tankers, but the good thing is that in all those hospitals there is already an in-house storage tanks, so it's always easy then to fill those storage tanks. So that's why you know, the disruption was just for a few weeks to allow us to fill those storage tanks. In total, 82 facilities were affected within the health institution, ranging from the roof leakages to extensive structural damages to the tune of 280 million. 70 of these health facilities are being repaired, as we indicated, and are being renovated under the Department of Public Works, while the remaining 12 are being renovated by the Department of Health itself due to the minor work that needs to be done. We are still sitting with a challenge around 72 missing people. The DNA services are being rendered by the South African Police Service. Recently, 8 DNA results came positive, which was quite a positive things from our sides and the families that are affected. We are also aware that many families are expecting closures, and we are really working very hard with the police, closely monitoring to ensure that this work is prioritized, but also working with the families to see what kind of closures would eventually lead to us working with the police, of course, as well as the teams that are doing the psychosocial support. We will continue supporting families in this regard, bearing in mind that these matters are very sensitive and they bring serious emotions to the families and the relatives. And it's something that all of us would wish we would have concluded these processes so that even those souls can be at peace, knowing that their families are also at peace. But we are still hopeful that the work that is ongoing is going to eventually help. We are working with some institutions within the technology industry space to also see what are the possibilities of bringing in some technologies that is going to help us also dealing with the missing bodies. We are exploring various technologies which hopefully very soon we should be able to say what is it that will help us better in dealing with these matters of finding the missing persons. The province, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we have been through serious challenges, but we have also seen the demonstration from our communities, demonstration of resilience and fortitude, but also this kind of work needs everybody to work together rather than for one party to be pulling on this different direction, therefore creating unnecessary anxiety to the affected people. In the hour of need, the flood victims have not been alone. We have been walking the road with them. Of course, there's quite a number of people that are involved in this massive recovery, and we cannot reach all the thousands of people on one day. That is why one of the mechanisms that we needed to put in place is to put people in groups so that we are able to give correct feedback to them about some of the concerns that are still there. But we do have a list of all the concerns that our people have, and we are dealing with each and every one of those concerns. We have made significant progress, but we want to reach a stage where permanent stability to all those affected by floods is achieved. And following that night of darkness in April and May, we're beginning to see the light shining again, and we are very positive that there will be a better tomorrow for our people, because as a caring government, we are not sleeping a single day without having to touch base with what is happening there on the ground. But the positive reception of dealing with the issues head on, where there are issues or there are matters that we need to be dealing with those families, is helping all of us, because we do not believe that there's anything that we are not capable of resolving. And all of those matters really are matters that are at hand. Of course, there has been family issues as well within the families themselves, and we are also dealing with those to facilitate mediation amongst the family members, so that again, from that area, the families are able to find each other, and they are able really to put to finality some of the serious matters that they've got to deal with. Together we will rise again as KwaZulu-Natal, and together we want to build a KwaZulu-Natal that is resilient to disasters in the near future. Of course, with the climate change presenting a crisis in the lives of everyone else, we believe that the rebuilding processes also provide us with an opportunity to retrofit some of the methods that we are using to rebuild, so that we maximize or we minimize the impact to infrastructure and damage that is caused during such flooding. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes my side of the briefing.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier, for the comprehensive updates. We will now then allow the media to pose their questions. Just please indicate your name, your media house, and then your questions to either the Premier or the Honourable Premier. Thank you, colleagues. What's your hand today? Let's see it. Honourable Premier. Great. And your order.
Yesterday, most of us were at the High Court in Germany, where actually they launched sort of legal processes to compel the provincial government, national government, integrated metro to urgently respond to the sewage crisis. According to their independent experts, the timeline that's set by the municipality and by government for December for the northern wastewater treatment works is unrealistic. I just want to get your response to their sort of launching this legal application, what you think about that, and just what the experts in government are saying about the proposed target. And just one more that I had was about, you mentioned the very pivotal and important issue of the DNA sourcing and DNA tracking of the victims. Has the general issue of the DNA backlog that we have in our forensic policing sector, has that delayed identifying new bodies?
Thank you.
So what we've been doing for the past month is visiting rescue centers that are still open, and the majority of the victims that we've spoken to have raised the issue of no communication between government and them. They are saying that they haven't been told about a deadline of December. They're not sure that they're going to be moved to TRUs or they're going to get permanent housing. They're not sure whether the government is still going to be providing food for them or not. Some of those rescue centers, they don't have food, and they're running out of donations. What has the government been doing in terms of communicating with the flood victims, letting them know where they are? And in terms of the missing people, the Premier said there's about 72 people that are still missing. Are the emergency services and rescue teams still working on the ground to assist families? Because the majority of the families that we've spoken to
the Human Settlements Minister then said that this was because of anti-corruption measures. I just need you to clarify this for us as the province, and then what measures are being implemented to fast-track durable solutions in terms of those mass care centres, in terms of housing?
Right, so is that all, right?
Okay. Right, maybe to start with the last one from newsroom. Yeah, the AG report, as we indicated previously, was a national report. It was not a provincial report. It was a national report that was dealing with all the provinces that were affected by disasters to start with. Now, if we were to come down then to the provincial specific issues, yes, there were delays. Delays were because there is no monies that are budgeted for disasters in each department. Now, if you're dealing with the public purse, you can't just take money and just use it, because in the first instance, monies are kept in the revenue fund, and there are laws that guides how you utilize the monies in the revenue fund. Monies must be utilized for the purpose that they are set for, that you go to Parliament and it gets voted into the law. That's to start with. Secondly, now when you've got to then change the purpose to which that money was designated, you've got to go the whole route of now applying to change the purpose of those monies. And that application doesn't take a month, 2 months. It takes some time, because to start with, you've got to identify where can you cut, what can you cut within your existing budget. You've got to look at what is it that you can make do with, or what is it that you can do without for the next 4-6 months until you get more money. Now, that process, again, takes time, because if you can't stop, for instance, projects that are already being done, because you can't leave projects uncompleted. You've got to then go to your budget and say, okay, where maybe we haven't used the money, can we then divert this money to deal with the matters of disasters? That was the first part. Now, once you've done that, once you've identified in your budget, let's say human settlement, you say we were going to build houses in this township, in this township, in this township. Okay, we're going to stop this one, we're going to stop this one. And once we've identified how much we need, first of all, remember that there has to be an assessment on the ground to see what is the damage. And that assessment as well doesn't take a day, because you need engineers to do that assessment, to say, if you say the house is partly damaged or the house is totally destroyed, what does that mean? Can it be rebuildable? It's engineers that must give us a certificate, but also it's engineers that must say what kind of bills of quantities, what kind of material you're going to need, and how much of that material you need. So once the engineers have done that and given us that report, and from that report then you're going to say, okay, engineers are saying I need 5.2 billion. Now you say, okay, where am I going to get that 5.2 billion? Now you've got to go and look for that money within your own budget. As I said, health had to go and look for that money, education, human settlement, everybody else have got to go and look for that money. Once you've got that money, you then are already in 4 months of your work. And in 4 months' time, the law says you are no longer in disaster mode. So if you are to spend the money, you've got to go the tender process. Tender process takes you a month or more. But if within that month you complete your tender process and there are objections to the contractors that have been identified, if there are objections to those contractors, you've got to deal with those objections. And that's time. Others take you to court. And you've got to go to court. Court doesn't take a month. It takes some time. So these are all the things that we've had to deal with practically to really just to demonstrate that it hasn't been an easy work to say you can wake up tomorrow and just put a house. Secondly, for places, almost all the places, many areas where houses were damaged, you could not build in those areas anymore. So you've got to look for land. In eThekwini, all of you would know, in many areas, there's no piece of land that is available. You go to Mlazi now, even on the pavements, people are building. You've got to look for where are you going to build for those people once you even have money. And if there's no land, you've got to look for alternative land. But you also need to consult people if you're not going to build them where they were residing, to say, look, I can't find land, I can't build for you here because there's water here, or this land already is moving, so we've got to find somewhere else to build for you. So all those processes really do take time. And, you know, I listened to the Prime Minister of Barbados on the weekend when she was saying that after 1.5 to close to 2 years of their hurricane, they still have people in the mass care centers. But of course, I'm not saying that it is acceptable for people to be in the mass care centers, but I'm saying if you look at the amount of processes and the amount of work that needs to be done before you can put the brick on the ground, if that is, you can find that piece of ground, it doesn't take a day or 2 months or 3 months. What measures are there to deal with all these things? We are, you know, we've had to, that is why, in fact, we've had to say, look, we can't find land, and if you find land, it takes time to plan. You've got to have building plans, you've got to have services, even to build a temporary, you know, house. You need services, you need water, you need sanitation, you need electricity. Again, that takes time. So we had to say, look, our experience now is that it's taking longer, and it's really not acceptable that people are still in shelters after so much time. So we changed the course. We use both the temporary residential shelters as well as looking now for rental accommodation. That is why I think we've been able to move, you know, with speed, because we are now using this method of rental stock. But even for us to get into that rental stock, we've had to ask for permission from the minister, again, to use the money that was supposed to be used for something else, to use it now for residential. And the MEC, we got that approval in September. And lucky for us, we had already started using the residential format. We didn't have to wait for that approval that we received in September. So that is what we had to do to try and fast track the slow pace of dealing with the housing of our people. Many people are raising communications as an issue. Well, we are communicating. We have a team of people that are going to each and every shelter. We have what is called one social worker, one shelter. Of course, it's not one, but it's designated teams of social workers per shelter. And then we've had, you know, facilitators, staff from human settlement. You would remember that one of the human settlement gentlemen who was killed at Ntuzuma, when he was going there, I think he had finished having a meeting with the communities in the shelter there, and he was shot dead. Just to demonstrate that people do go to shelters, because we have to, on a weekly basis, tell people what is happening. And even my experience, I go to shelters every day. You know, I just drive there to just go see what's happening. And of course, you don't find everybody all the time. Sometimes you just find few people. Sometimes if you go in the evening, there are more people. If you go in the morning, there are less people, and you find different people. But what has happened in other shelters, which is quite commendable, is that now they have committees. And it's easy because then the committee, it's easy to communicate with the committee all the time, to give them feedback, but even the committee themselves can see that this is what is happening. There's evidence of what is it that we are doing. So there is communication. But also we are planning to have a meeting with all the people that are affected, so that, again, we communicate with all of them, so that, because some of them might be wanting to see the mayor, the MEC, the premier. And as I say, we can't reach all of them in 1 day or in 2 months because of the sheer number. So that is why the plan is to bring them all together and then communicate and have that meeting with them and have them raise every concern that they have and be able to then have one communication center besides what is ongoing on the daily basis with the teams from various departments. Where the government is providing food, the government is providing food to shelters. Of course, this is one area as well that has been a huge challenge. Lucky now, again in September, we received monies from the National Department of Social Development, which is going to help us at least now to replenish the stock in some of the shelters. But where people are now residing in their own flats, we are not providing. We usually provide food when they get there, and then after that, of course, they are now in their own places. But what we've also done, for instance, in quite a few shelters, including the one in Pietermaritzburg, all the people that are unemployed there are now under the EPWP project. We've put them under the EPWP project, and they're now working. They're getting stipend. At least they are able to fend for themselves, although they do get support from government as well. The temporary houses or flats, we are providing both. We're providing temporary houses where there are, there's land to build temporary housing, where there are services, where there are no land, we are providing the temporary flats. We have a process now that is in place. Unfortunately, as I said, that we now are expected to go to tender. Some of you might not have seen, some of you might have seen it. There was a tender that was advertised last month for this rental stock. There's another tender now that is going to close, I think, in a week's time or so, to again acquire the rental stock. We believe that the amount of the rental stock that we have is going to be able to take everyone in the shelters. Of course, as we say that, unfortunately, we've got to go through the procurement processes, and God willing, there be no objections. If there are no objections, definitely, come second week of December, there would not be anyone in the shelters. That's why I'm saying, if there is no objection, because the processes would have finalized and would have been able to start. We are already discussing about starting discussions about the allocations as to who's going to be allocated where in those rental stocks that we are going to be getting from that process. The emergency is still providing service for the rescue search. It is ongoing. We're not going to stop. And the matters of DNA, the DNA, the disaster ones is being prioritized. It's not being handled like all other DNA. And unfortunately, because of the nature of the DNAs that they are dealing with, it's not an easy DNA. It takes some time. That's why you'd find that sometimes they do it 3 times, 4 times, just to try and get to really. And that's why I indicated that this week alone, at least, we've had some positives that have come through, which is quite a relief and really something that is welcome to those families. And on a weekly basis, we are getting feedback, and hopefully they will be able to eventually deal with everyone. Of course, there are bodies that are there as well that have not been accounted for. The process of the spillage in the beach, yeah, this is a very urgent matter from ourselves. In fact, the Department of Environmental Affairs of the province is already working with the municipality. First of all, they've got to deal with the compliance matters, because in terms of the environmental laws, there are compliance matters that you've got to serve, whoever who's polluted, and you've got to deal with the transgressions. That's one part. The second part is then the cleaning that needs to happen. I did indicate that the part of the reasons why they were not able to move and complete all other beaches is the funding, which is now available, which was made available at the end of September, and the procurement processes have started. I think that is why you heard the engineers saying that it will be beginning of December, because they were counting the procurement processes, and then they were counting then the work when it's going to start and when it's going to finish. But we have impressed upon them that it is urgent, that this is sorted out as a matter of agency. But what we are positive with is that we can see that there is work that is being done on a daily basis. It's not like somebody is sitting and doing nothing. The issue is about the agency that is there. And all of us are really wanting this matter to be resolved like yesterday, so that at least we can then have people to enjoy their holiday season, in the coast. I think I would have dealt with some of these matters. My MEC, these matters from your side.
No, thanks, Prim. Greetings to the colleagues. I think the Premier has done a comprehensive work. We are trying, by all means, as we have noticed, we've built a large number of TRUs, and anyone with any knowledge of building, whether you're building at home or anywhere, it doesn't take a day. But we wish also to apologize to our people for maybe let me not say maybe, where they are feeling pain. We understand, we visit these areas, it's inhumane for them to stay in those areas, but we are doing everything. The Premier needs reports every day She calls meetings every day to make sure that we deal with this. It is a matter of priority, but if also we can go outside to other districts, 8 districts, the work has been completed. There were about 135 mass care centers, 71 have been closed, which means there is progress that is visible. And one thing I can assure you, by next week, we'll have reduced them with maybe about 10 or 11 by next week because of the work that we are doing. Having said that, all of us will remember, we come from a period, a COVID period. Many things were done harsh, and ended up causing problems in some areas. So we need to make sure that as we deal with this problem, we deal with it properly so that at the end of the day, no one is left with any problem. We need also to be sensitive. We take note of communication. We try by all means to visit the mass care centers to make sure that they are fine, to communicate with them, to reassure them that we are doing something. The main aim for us is to make sure that they get permanent structures, not just temporary residential units, because that is what is going to give them the best of comfort. We are with them, we feel their pain, and in as much as we need to focus in many areas, but we've taken most of the time to focus on the areas that affects them, and we will continue to make sure that we work with them. As I said, we take note of the issue of communication. On top of what we are doing, we will improve on that. And I think the rest the Premier has covered. With the people who are still missing, as the Premier mentioned also, there is an ongoing search. We are not going to stop, we'll try. But more than this, I think all of us, colleagues, we need to work together to be sensitive to these families, because some of them have lost their loved ones. They've not seen them from April until now, and they are going through a very difficult time. We are trying as government also to help them with psychological help, so that they are able to cope with the conditions under which they are living. But in terms of making sure that they are moved out of it's a target that we've set for ourselves, as the Premier said, that we wish that all of them by Christmas they will be out of the mass care centers, because we visit them, we know the pain that they are going through. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable MC. So if there no other, one last point of clarity, I'll just open the floor for one last round of questions, and then the Premier will then summarize the decision so that we can wrap up the deliberate.
Mine is just slightly off topic. While I have the Premier, just it's an opportunity to ask. In less than 3 weeks, the highest ranked official in your office, the DG, will be appearing in the specialized We're all aware of whistleblowers being killed all the time. This is obviously a case of intimidation. You know, your office has been quite silent when it comes to many emails, lots of questions. Is there no disciplinary process? Is there no leave of absence? What is the issue with the DG and current criminal charges?
Neil, thank you for that question. However, I don't feel that this is a platform surface, and we did issue a statement in that regard. So can you just not try and personalize the matter and just deal with that issue that we have
It's not personal.
for today?
It's a governance issue.
Thank you, because we did respond to that publicly when it happened. So I think that statement that we issued, remains in place, and just allow the processes that are underway to follow. Thank you. So there no other questions on flood disasters. 2 more questions on flood disasters.
Just one question.
Okay.
Regarding the prayer, we saw what happened last night with the last statement that the Premier's office released in terms of someone trying to cause some havoc. But what happened today? We would just like to have some clarity on that.
Okay, and then also, colleagues, with regard
That's fine, where's the other person?
Fellow compatriots wanted to in overall, I had the previous speaking about difficulties of the provincial government having to use money that was not budgeted for in relation to this class. I want to know what sort of constraint does that take on the provincial government, but also these departments have to use this money that was not budgeted.
Thank you, colleagues. Okay, then there will be the last round, and then the Premier will respond, and we'll then cover the statement of decision.
Okay, with regard to the prayer, there will be a prayer, like we always do every year. The prayer for crime, the prayer for accidents, the prayer for killings, prayer for the list, if you would have seen from our program that was issued, if it was issued, there's quite a different aspects designated to prayer. And we do it every year before the festive season. It's not the first time that we do the prayer. Prayer for disasters and everything else. So there will be a prayer. The second one is the changing of the priorities in the budget does cause a serious service delivery constraints. You would understand that provinces get their money from the national fiscus. And when we get our annual budget from the national fiscus, you budget for specific programs within that year or within the MTSF. And if you are now to change that, it means you are definitely not going to be able to fulfill other service delivery, plans that you had in place. It is in this regard that we have approached our national government for more funding to programs that now have had to use the money for disasters. Money such as the one that is being used for human settlements, for instance. It's the monies, as you would have heard, that would have used in the next 3 years, that you now have to use it now to fast track the housing deliveries. And in the other department as well, whether it's education or health, they would have used that money for other things within the health budget. But
now that they've got to go and fix the roofs and fix the files and fix the computers and everything else, they will definitely won't be having money for other things that they would have budgeted for. And that is why then we need to approach the national government for funding for many of those programs that now do not have money due to monies having to be reprioritized and utilized for disasters.
Okay, our Premier, will you please have a summary in Zulu?
Does anybody want to say?
I believe SABC and you want to say
Siyabingelela futhi kwabezindaba. Sihlangene lapha namhlanje ukuzonikeza umbiko ngokuqhubekayo mayelana nokulungiswa kwengqalasizinda emva kwe-disasters ezenzeke ngo-April no May this year. Qala ngogesi, indawo lapho bekungekho khona ugesi kakhulukazi owalimala ngenxa yezikhukhula. Zonke lezo ndawo sezilungisiwe. Amanzi kakhulukazi lapho okwahamba lonke ipipe lamanzi oThongathi kwindawo ebizwa ngokuthi Thongathi Water Treatment Works. Ipipe lakhona selilungisiwe laqedwa ngomhla ka-27 ku-October. Inkontraka ibe seyinikezela lo msebenzi kuhulumeni ngoba sekuqediwe ukusetshenzwa. Kodwa kusaqhubeka ukubhekwa ukuthi leli pipe ngabe lisebenza ngendlela okuyiyona yona na. Ngoba siyazi ukuthi uma ngabe kunepipe elisha kufanele mase lisebenza for inyanga libe libhekwa ukuthi lisebenza kahle yini, akukho lapho amanzi angafinyeleli khona, akukho lapho amanzi abamancane khona, akukho lapho amapipe ayaqhuma ngenxa yomthamo wamanzi, whether omkhulu whether omncane. Ukulungiswa kwengqalesizinda ethutha indle, umsebenzi obuwenziwa kakhulukazi kula ndawo ebizwa ngokuthi uHlange Water Treatment Works, nakho futhi kuwumsebenzi oqhubakalayo njengamanje. Siyazi ukuthi omunye umthelela wokuthi leliya pipe lilimale ukuthi liye lachithela ukhanjiswa kwendle kwezinye zezindawo kuhlanganisa nemfula ephumela ngasolwandle. Lokho ke kube nomthelela ukuthi kube khona indawo lapha ya olwandle ezivalwayo kwenzela ukuthi kungabi khona ubungozi kubantu abazithola beya khona olwandle. Kodwa njengamanje indawo eziningi lapha ya ema-beach olwandle seyivuliwe. Ama-beach anjengalawo kuthiwa iPoint, Oshaka Marine, Eddington South, Wedge Beach, North Beach, Bay of Plenty, Battery Beach, Country Club, Brighton Beach, Reunion Beach, Pipeline Beach, Toti Beach, Warner Beach, and Umgababa Beach. Wonke lawo ma-beach aseyasebenza njengamanje. Singasho nje ukuthi mhlambe indawo engakasebenzi ile yangasemhlanga okuyiyona ebenomthelela kakhulu ngoba leli pipe lihamba njengoba sisho ukuthi lihamba enorth, lithelela kakhulu imfula le engase-north. In addition, ama-swimming pool asevuliwe njengamanje alindele ukuthi asebenze. Ama-swimming pool njenge-Rainham, i-Durban North, i-Pipeline, i-Tiger Rocks, i-Unstein, i-Westville, i-Kings Park, indoor and outdoor, lawo ma-swimming pool aseyasebenza njengamanje nawo ukuthi abantu bangakwazi ukuthi bawasebenzise. Mayelana nokulethwa noma ukwakhiwa kwezindlu nokuthi kususwe abantu bakithi ey'ndaweni ezingakulungele ukuthi fanele ngabe bahlala kuzona, kakhulukazi emahholo nakwezinye indawo lapho behleli khona ngabaningi. Umsebenzi wakhona nawo uyaqhubeka. Njengamanje singaqinisekisa ukuthi emva kokuba bangaphezu kwey'nkulungwane ezine abantu abakhahlamezeka ngalezi khukhula. Uhulumeni usekwazile ukuthi ey'ndaweni lapho bekwazeka ukuthi sakhe khona izindlu ezingaphezu kuka-1592 seyiqediwe ukwakhiwa. Ezu-1511 abantu sebeyahlala kuzona. Ezu-81 kulezi zindlu ezise-KwaDukuza ngaphansi komkhandlu wakwaDukuza ziqediwe, kodwa njengamanje kusafakelwa amanzi kanye nogesi ukuze sikwazi ukuthi abantu bakithi bakwazi ukusebenzisa. Indawo lapho bekuhlaliswe khona abantu zingaphezu kuka-135 indawo bezikhona kusukela ngesikhathi kwaba khona inkinga yama-disasters ngo-April no-May. Kulezi ndawo ezu-135 ezazikhona sesikwazile ukuthi sivale ezu-71. Njengamanje ezu-64 ngaphansi kuka-64 ngoba kuleli sonto nangesonto edlulile kukhona ezingango-6 ezikwaziyo ukuthi ziphinde ivalwe. Lokho-ke kuchaza ukuthi umsebenzi wokuthi sisuse abantu kulezi ndawo ezingalungile uyaqhubeka ngokushesha. Singakusho nje ukuthi kulezi ndawo lapho esisusa khona abantu kuba nenkinga yokuthi ezinye indawo ukwazi ukuthi uphinde wakhe khona. Ingakho uthola ukuthi kuthatha isikhathi mhlambe ukuthi kwakhiwe ngenxa yokuthi kufanele ukuthi sibheke umhlaba lapho abantu abangakhelwa khona. Siyazi-ke ukuthi umhlaba awutholakali kakhulukazi ey'ndaweni ezinjengasemadolobheni njengoThekwini nakwezinye indawo. Ingakho-ke kuthatha isikhathi ukuthi kwakhiwe izindlu, kodwa zonke iy'ndawo lapho abantu babethuthelwe khona kwesikhashana, zonke lezo ndawo sekwaziwa ukuthi kutholakale imihlaba ehlukahlukene lapho kuzokwakhiwa khona izindlu eziwuhlobo oluhlukahlukene lapho kuzohlala khona abantu. Njengamanje siqale uhlelo esilibiza ngokuthi i-rental stock, lapho esibona khona ukuthi ngenxa yokuhamba kancane kohlelo lokwakha izindlu lezi zesikhashana kanye nokungabi khona komhlaba, kungcono sithole lezi ezingama-flat ngoba zona ziyakwazi ukuthi zisheshe zithwale umthamo omningi wemphakathi, at least abantu bakithi bakwazi ukuhlala ezindaweni ezingcono ngesikhathi kusaqhubeka ukuthi kwakhiwe izindlu lapho ebezobe sebehlala khona. Njengamanje singakusho ukuthi kuyathatha khona isikhathi eside uma ngabe kuzokwakhiwa ngoba kufanele kuplanwe. Uma uplana-ke kufanele wenze isiqiniseko sokuthi akhona amanzi, khona ugesi, khona imigaqo ukuze ukwazi ukwakha indlu ezokwazi ukuthi abantu bahlale ngendlela ekuyiyona yona. Enye into eyenza ukuthi kuthathe mhlampe isikhashana ukuthi kwakhiwe ukuthi ezinye indawo akwakheki khona lapho okwaba khona nezikhukhula. Fanele-ke sifune indawo enye lapho abantu bangakhelwa khona. Kubalulekile ukuthi sikusho lapha ukuthi siyasebenzisana ney'ndawo namakomiti akhona ey'ndaweni. Uhulumeni kunamathimba ahlala noma allocate kuma-shelter nge-shelter noma ngendawo lapho abanikeza khona umbiko ngaso sonke isikhathi ukuthi yini eyenzakalayo mayelana nokususwa kwabantu kulezo ndawo bayohlaliswa ey'ndaweni ezingcono ezesikhashana ngoba lezi ezakhiwayo ezokuthi bahlale khona unomphela. Njengamanje ama process akhona kusaplanwa ukwakhiwa kwalezo zindlu. Singasho nje ukuthi mkhulu kakhulu umonakalo odalekwe ilezi imvula, imigaqo eminingi ebekufanele ukuthi yakhiwe seyakhiwe njengamanje. Ama bridge bekufanele ukuthi akhiwe akhona seqediwe, setshenziswa inhlelo ezihlukahlukene kanye nokusebenzisana noSANRAL. Kusetshenziswa operation Siyazenzela, lo hlelo kuthiwa operation Siyazenzela, kuphinde futhi kusetshenziswe umphakathi wakulezo ndawo ukuthi kwakhiwe leyo mgaqo nalawo ma bridge, kakhulukazi uhlelo okuthiwa uwelisa isizwe, uhlelo osetshenziswa kakhulu ukuthi kwakhiwa ama bridge. Izikole ke ziningi ezakhahlamezeka ilezi imvula, singaphezulu kuka 356 izikole ezakhahlamezeka. Kulezi izikole ezu 356 ezu 46 kuzona seyiqedile ukuthi zilungiswe, bese kuthi ezu 123 njengamanje ziyakhiwa, ziyalungiswa. Bese kuthi ezu 76 kuzona kufakwe ama-mobile ama-class lawa angomahamba nendlwane awesikhashana. Kulama class afakiwe afakelwe isikhashana ngesikhathi kusalungiswa lezo izikole ezilungiswayo. Iyajabula ke ukuthi umsebenzi uyaqhubeka ekulungiseni kwalezi izikole kanye namakliniki alungiswayo nawo. Maningi kakhulu amakliniki nezibhedlela ezalimala kanye ngekhukhula, izibhedlela ezinjengomshiyeni, Mahatma Gandhi Memorial, uThongati, ezinye zezibhedlela ezinkulu ezakhahlamezeka ngesikhathi amapayipi amanzi ephuka kuleza ndawo. Kodwa siyajabula ukusho ukuthi ngesikhathi kwenzeka lokhu sakwazi ukuthi sisebenzise amathanga amanzi akhona akhiwe kuzona lezi izibhedlela ukuthi kugcwaliswe wona. Emva kokuba sesikwazi ukwagcwalisa ke izibhedlela zibe sezikwazi ukusebenza. Kodwa njengamanje amapayipi lawo afakwayo alungiswayo aselungisiwe kweziningi zalezi izibhedlela njengoba sikhuluma nje. Siyaqonda kabanzi ukuthi kubhlungu kangakanani ukuthi abantu bakithi umuntu angakwazi ngisho nanokuthola ithambo lomzali wakhe noma umntana wakhe noma isihlobo sakhe ukuze akwazi ukuthi ambeke ngokuthula. Amaphoyisa ke asebenza ngokuzikhandla ukuthi alungisele ukuthi ekugcineni sigcine sonke sesikwazile ukuthi sivale lo buhlungu obusenhlizweni zabo bonke abantu bakithi abalahlekelwe izihlobo zabo. Singakusho nje ukuthi ekusebenzeni kwamaphoyisa ngokuyikhandla kuleli sonto nje lilodwa bawu-8 abantu bakithi abatholakale ukuthi ihlobo zabo kutholakala ukuthi izona lezo ihlobo zabo kulabo ababe hambe emhlabeni ngenxa yezikhukhula. Okusijabulisayo ukuthi ke isonto nesonto ama DNA enziwayo ayabuya, amanye positive, amanye ayabuya negative. Kodwa esingakusho ukuthi ithimba labatakula alihleli, liyaqhubeka nohlelo lokutakula, liyaqhubeka futhi nohlelo lokuthi kubhekwe kucubungulwe ukuthi kutholakale ukuhlanganisa kwezihlobo kanye nalabo bakithi abashiya emhlabeni. Siyafisa nje ukusho emphakathini ukuthi sibhlungu kakhulu sonke ukwazi ukuthi kusekhona abantu bakithi abahlala kabuhlungu ngalolu hlobo lokuthi ungazi ukuthi umntanakho ukuphi, ungazi ukuthi isihlobo sakho sikuphi. Kodwa sinabo emthandazweni, sinabo ngakho konke ekwenzeni isiqiniseko sokuthi amathimba lawo abhekelelene nalowo msebenzi ayawuqeda ngokusheshsha. Siyafisa nje ukugcizelela ukuthi sonke nje siwumphakathi siqhubeke sibambisane nalemndeni siqhubeke sisize abophiko kanye nemindeni ukuthi ekugcineni siyithole iy'hlobo lezi ezahamba emhlabeni. Siyafisa futhi ukuthi sinxuse wonke umphakathi ukuthi sizwelane siphinde sikwazi ukuthi ubuhlungu lemphakathi noma lemndeni ababhekene nabo abudingi ukuthi kube khona abanye abazobhebhezela phambili lobo buhlungu ababhekene nabo. Kuthina ke sizawuqhubeka ukuthi sibe nabo bonke abantu bakithi. Sizawuqhubeka futhi ukuthi sisebenzisane nazo zonke ezinye inhlaka ukuthi ekugcineni kulobo mnyama esabona ngo-April nango-May gcine sesibona ukukhanya, sigcine sesibona ukujabula emehlweni abantu bakithi uma ngabe sesikwazile ukuthi bahlale endaweni ezihloniphekile, bathole izihlobo zabo nalabo abangakaphumuli bakwazi ukuthi nabo baphamule. Ngoba ilelo langa ke lapho nathi siyokwazi ukuthi siphumule sazi ukuthi njengobuholi obukhona sikwenze konke okusemandleni ukuthi abantu bakithi bakuthole ukuphumula, baluthole futhi ukuxolo. Siyathemba ke ukuthi sizawuqhubeka ukubambisana, sizaba nawo umkhuleko maduze nje lapho esawukhulekela khona iy'ngozi zomgaqo, sikhulekele laba abathandiweyo bethu, sikhulekele ubugebengu obuningi obugcwele ey'ndaweni, nanokuthi sibambisane nophiko lamaphoyisa ekulwisaneni nobugebengu, ukuhlukunyezwa kwabantu besifazane ney'ngane esikubonayo kubidlangile ey'ndaweni zakithi. Zonke lezo zinto kubalulekile ukuthi sibambisane, silisane nabo bonke naso sonke isihlava sobubi esikhona emphakathini. Siyabonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. That concludes our media briefing today, ladies and gentlemen, and there will be opportunities in future